open. And following up on Major's question, just to, I think, reinforce what Mick said, I think that
let's suppose that you're writing a really important email to a colleague.
They object to.
Peter Doocy live on Capitol Hill. So basically, I'm hearing right now that there is recent activity right now in the Senate that could potentially be working toward a real resolution here to get the government to reopen. What are you hearing?
We're hearing that might be sometime this evening. Nothing is certain yet because there is no agreement in place. So really what we've been hearing, the only sure thing so far has been this blame game where Senate Democrats have been taking the most heat from House Republicans, who we just heard from. And a couple dozen stood up on a stage and basically pointed to the Senate Democrats and said, look, we did our job. From House, we passed a bill out of the House that funds the government, keeps the lights on in federal buildings, and funds the children's health insurance program, and you didn't.
The Senate Democrats made a decision last night, and I'm hopeful that even today, that they will reconsider that decision that they made, that choice that they made last night to move us in this direction of a shutdown. And so that we're waiting for the Senate right now. We're waiting for the Senate Democrats, and we're hoping that even today they would vote to agree to the continuing resolution, get it on the president's desk so that we can go about the business, the important business that the people expect us to do.
Another complaint among some House Republicans today has been about Senate rules. They needed 60 votes last night to beat a filibuster and pass that spending measure. And some Republicans on the House side are starting to push to end that filibuster rule so that bills that pass one Republican-controlled chamber can then pass the other.
A majority vote should be able to pass a law, and the rest of it doesn't really make much sense. I mean, we have a legislative branch that can't function, that we can't even keep the government open. That's not okay. The House has acted, right? The House has acted. We passed a bill by a majority vote. The Senate needs to act too, and part of that, I think, is getting rid of this filibuster.
But the filibuster does still exist, so in an attempt to try to scrape together enough support in the Senate, there is discussion about turning the 4-week package that failed last night into a 3-week-long bill, and that is what we expect them to start talking about in the next couple hours.
Okay,
Julie.
so to be clear here, Republicans maintain they are not willing to begin discussions on DACA, that has plenty of time to be hammered out. Right now, the key issue is reopening the government. It's a question of whether or not the Democrats will then table DACA in order to fund the government.
Right, and Nancy Pelosi, the top Democrat in the House, has already said today that she would give her members permission to vote for this 3-week-long continuing resolution as long as DACA is attached, but it's not, and it's not going to be, so now the attention shifts to Democrats in the Senate.
All right, Peter Doocy.
There are various compromises being bandied about. They're bandied about with far more serious today than they were yesterday by the Republican side, and I'm always willing to listen to compromises out of how to get this done. But at this point, we feel very, very strongly about the issues, not just Dreamers, but opioids, pensions, not funding the military on a CR basis, and we feel the American people are on our side.
Last night, 5 Democrats in the Senate did end up voting yes with Republicans for that measure. They were Donnelly from Indiana, Heitkamp from North Dakota, Jones, the new senator from Alabama, Manchin from West Virginia, and McCaskill from Missouri. But Senate Republicans need twice that to avoid a shutdown, and that's where we're at. Julie?
All right, we'll continue to watch it. A lot of activity in the nation's capital today. Thank you very much, Peter Doocy, reporting from Capitol Hill. Kelly.
President Trump is blaming Democrats for the government shutdown as he officially marks his first year in office. The president tweeting this today: "This is the 1-year anniversary of my presidency, and the Democrats wanted to give me a nice present. Hashtag Democrat shutdown." Joining us now, Deputy White House Secretary Hogan Gidley. Hogan, good of you to join us today, and you're there at the White House. Well, first of all, this was supposed to be a day of celebration for President Trump. He had planned to travel to Florida to have a festive event to celebrate his first year in office. Instead, what he's finding is that he's had to scrub those plans to deal with the government shutdown. Mark Short expressing earlier today disappointment in this shutdown happening. What is the president's mood right now?
Well, he's disgusted that Democrats have chosen to play politics with people's lives. And let's be clear. What the Democrats have chosen to focus on are 100,000 people who are here in this country unlawfully. They've shut down the government over it. What this president has chosen to focus on instead and stand up and fight for are the hundreds of millions of Americans, people in this country legally, who need vital government services. There are 8.9 million children, impoverished children, vulnerable children in this country who rely on insurance program called CHIP. The president fully funded that for 6 years in this piece of legislation. He focused on the military. It has to be funded. The people that lay down their lives protecting this nation, for each and every person out in this country, they can't be funded properly because the Democrats have chosen to play politics. And what's worse about this whole thing is the pieces of the bill Democrats say they agree with, which means you can only draw one conclusion. They are playing politics with people's lives, and they are holding the military hostage.
Hogan, the president, as you've noted, has been tweeting about the government shutdown to keep the public informed, expressing his disgusted feeling about that. He, along with Republicans, have pointed to Democrats as being the blame, calling it Schumer's shutdown. And the Democrats, as you know, have responded, calling it Trump's shutdown, since he's the president. The Republicans are the majority in the House and Senate. But really, isn't everybody responsible and accountable and bear some of the blame for this tremendous breakdown in communication that has resulted in this government shutdown?
Senator Schumer can try and put the blame elsewhere, but basically he's ignoring two main things. He's ignoring the American people and is ignoring the facts. Mathematics is the Democrats' problem. In order to pass a budget bill, we have to have 60 votes in the Senate. Republicans only have 51 seats, which means 9 Democrats have to decide to put country and the American people above politics. To this point, they have not done that, and that's something they are going to have to answer for.
So country first, politics last. But what's going on behind the scenes right now, Hogan, in terms of bringing Republicans and Democrats back together? Or what is the president doing to bring them to the White House to find agreement on how they can end this lapse in the government funding and resolve their differences to get the government open and running again?
Right. Well, we are where we are because of the Democrats. I think that's painfully obvious. But the president wants a deal. Everyone in the country was privy